good morning to you, Landon. One company that's certainly been in the headlines and got a little bit of that love has been Peloton, as the stay-at-home trade has been another area of this market that's continued to buoy things. And Peloton certainly in the forefront of that. Right now, $37.20 the last trade, up another dollar today, which is 2.7%. Does the data support the move that we're seeing in Peloton?
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's wild when you look at how well they've done, and it's great timing because you've got New Year's resolutions for these kind of companies that come in. It's extremely important to, get your workout going around the new year, and that usually lasts for a few weeks, depending on how strong your resolve is. But then also you've got COVID coming in, everybody's staying at home, and the number of people that are talking about working out from home is unbelievable. Huge, huge spike. In fact, you look at Peloton specifically, the spike is much bigger for working out from home uh, because of COVID than it was for New Year's resolutions. And so they're doing really well. They're getting a ton of new people. Again, look at this chart. People talking about exercising from home. When you force them to stay home, they're either going to degenerate and play video games and drink all day, or they're going to work out and improve their lives. And a lot of people are choosing to improve their lives. Huge spike initially. Yes, it is tailing off. That's human nature. But Peloton was really smart in how they got a free trial for their software, for their app, just around the time that the quarantine started. Got a ton of new users in, and they're going to convert to paying users around, I think, $12 a month very soon. So we're seeing a strong quarter, not only reporting coming in for the quarter that's about to be reported, but also for the current quarter. So guidance, we think, could also be very strong.
Landon, I think you explained this exercising at home mentioned chart perfectly, because the naked eye might look at this and say, well, it's declining, it's going back down from the spike when the coronavirus started, but it's really not. It's settling in at significantly higher levels. And that spike, you're right, don't get faked out by the crazy spike and then coming back down to earth. But their coming back down to earth is considerably higher than they were at the beginning of the year, right? Is that what you're really seeing? You got to rule out the volatility of that big high number and look at the fact that it's settling in here at some pretty high levels.
Yes, absolutely. If you're just looking at the trend, sure, the trend is down from the beginning of the quarantine, but it is so much higher than it was. I mean, just look at this chart of Peloton, people talking about either buying the bike or getting the app obviously being much larger percentage. But you can see that there's a big ramp up in December. January 1st was big for them. And then, of course, that New Year's resolutions fades. And it got to a low point in March, kind of back to normal. But then as the stay-at-home order started, huge, huge increase. In fact, probably double what it was for New Year's resolutions. So this is really forcing people to get in shape and to face those internal demons and really get things going. And Peloton's app is just fantastic. It's not just the bike, which I think a lot of people need to understand. Yeah, the bike is $2,000 plus I think $40 a month. It's expensive. It's very high end, but they've also got I think it's $12 app where you can do yoga, you can do cycling, you can do strength, you can do running, all kinds of stuff. And everything that I've heard, Megan is a big user of this. She swears by it. She says it's extremely motivational, keeps her going, and it's just a fantastic app. And at $12, it's really cheap. I mean, it's the cost of a gym membership or a little bit less. And so you can do it from home. And it's just, we're seeing incredible reception from the social media data. Happiness was about 86% throughout the history of this company. It dipped around New Year's resolutions down to 78 as people started influxing into the product. But now, as even more coming in, it's actually going up, which, as you guys know, a lot of times we see new customers coming in and happiness drop. This is the opposite effect. It's raised 8 points since all these new customers have come in. So that's a tremendous sign that not only are a lot of people coming in, but the new ones love it. They're likely to stay and become paying customers.
Landon, I think it's important too, is probably the way that these apps and products are being judged is probably seismically shifted now. Is, they're not being compared to gyms or, in-person yoga classes anymore. They're being compared to other on-demand content. And, it sounds like a Peloton, at least from your guys' perspective, is executing on that pretty well. But I have a two-part question for you here, Landon. First point is, when you see gym and fitness style, membership growth and things of that nature, is it fairly seasonal, not just around New Year's Eve, but maybe less and less people are likely looking to sign up for in-home gyms in the middle of summer, where they might be more motivated to do that when weather gets a little bit worse and things of that nature. Where this is kind of, the perfect time almost, if that's the case, for this to have all happened for them as we're working towards summer. And then the second part of the question is part of this bullish thesis potentially that, the new normal won't include as many gym memberships, as we already have companies like Gold's Gym filing for bankruptcy. We have companies like 24 Hour Fitness talking about it as well. And, maybe there's not going to be as many gym options, or less people are going to be interested in going to those gyms once things are, back to a more normal situation, and more people are going to opt to just do this from home continually going forward.
Yeah, so two great questions there. I'll cover them both. So first of all, you're talking about the seasonal nature. Yes, for sure. It is, in the winter, I think, especially after New Year's, people are more, have more resolve to get in shape. And as the beach body, the beach body timeline comes into play, May or June, they start to just kind of accept what they've got. But also, don't just think about working out from home as working out indoors, because a lot of Peloton stuff is around cycling and running and things that you can do outdoors when the weather is really nice. So I think that if you get people using this app and getting used to using it every day, then good weather could actually be an increase for them. And so I do think there is a bit of seasonality in it, but I also think that they have a little bit of weatherproofness to their app, because so much of it is outdoors. It's not just doing something at home alone. And as far as the behavior change, you're talking about gyms going out of business and struggling right now. Obviously, yes, that is huge for a company like Peloton. I think it really comes down to, is this going to be a tremendous behavior change for these consumers? Because a lot of people never really thought about working out from home until they were forced, as that's their only option. So now it's either you go jogging or you work out from home because the gym is closed. And so I think you're introducing a lot of people into this new type of behavior, and for many of them, it will stick. And I think that's Peloton's challenge, is getting people to stay on this app and forego going back to the gyms once they reopen. And from what we've seen in consumer happiness and anecdotally what I've heard about the app, people are extremely happy with it. I like their chances of converting a lot of these trials.
Well, and Landon, the price point significantly lower than a gym membership at $12 a month, or at least most gym memberships, especially in the Chicago area here. But Kevin, I'm really glad we had this conversation with Landon, because I learned a lot about what this company really provides to its customers. And it's not a single product company. It's not just about this bike that I think, to Landon's point, maybe is a misconception. And we know what happens to so many of these, single product, single service companies, that they're not able to adapt and do it in a successful, quick fashion once they become public companies. I mean, you have stories like GoPro. You even have stories like Twitter that have really, struggled for years to find a way to monetize their user growth. But it sounds like what Peloton's really focused on is creating an ecosystem. And we know how many of these companies that are ultra successful have done that in different ways. And it seems like they've been able to be nimble and adapt to an ever-changing environment here pretty successfully. So, Kevin, I'm looking forward to any thoughts you have here before we say goodbye to Landon.
Yeah, the one thing we didn't mention in this whole conversation is the treadmill that Peloton has just come out with. Now, they're not delivering it during the coronavirus, but the scars they're going to be left on a lot of people from this coronavirus is what Landon talked about, the inability to get to their health club. And that is, I'm a treadmill guy. I'm not a Peloton biker, but the fact that I can't get to a treadmill will change my behavior going forward to probably buy a treadmill. And Peloton has an incredibly high quality treadmill for a pretty reasonable price that I will be looking into the minute that they free up that part of their company. So there's a whole treadmill version of Peloton that we haven't even gotten into yet. So you're right. The biggest scar left on a lot of people is their inability to get to a health club during this coronavirus. And I think that Peloton can seize on as well, guys.
Well, Landon, I'm hoping Peloton's giving you a marketing check there, and I'm just playing. But you really did paint this in a way that I think is important for investors and viewers at home to understand that, it isn't just this single service. The last question then is, Landon, going into this announcement, given the move that we've seen, I mean, it's been an extraordinary move. No way to spin it. Is the growth enough? Can it sustain this trajectory, or are we getting to a point where, the stock price is getting ahead of itself?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of times we compare companies to how they were trading in February before all this, and Peloton's higher than they were in February. They had a little dip, but now they're back and they're even higher. And so the question is, what are expectations? Based on what I've seen on the quarterly expectations from analysts, they're expecting a small growth quarter over quarter. Our data shows a very large growth quarter over quarter, and we're seeing that the current quarter, the one that they may give guidance on, is extremely high. And now a lot of that, again, is free trials, and so it's going to be a question of whether or not they can convert those. But just based on the fact that they've got so many people coming into this app, and happiness is very high, we are very bullish on Peloton going into earnings.